Hello, I just wanted to go over some of the process work for this recent scene I did. It's more in like the internet subculture, like glitchcore and stuff like that style, and I haven't really seen that done in Unreal Engine 5. And going over some of the materials and tricks that I used, I think could be an interesting video for this piece on my portfolio. So, kind of jumping into it, this is how the piece kind of final look was. And going into our perspective, we can see a big change in how this looks. I can pin this down here. So we just get some different color variation, and that screen effect just isn't playing. We can kind of go away from the scene and kind of see the forced perspective. Because this was a pretty stationary shot and not a game or anything like that where you're walking around, I was able to just kind of use these planes here. This is all done with just one master material where I'm taking these pictures I found, played with them in Photoshop, and put them into the background to kind of create this city scene. So these are all just done in Photoshop. I was just trying to get this high contrast, these pixelated look, somewhat of a retro style, but kind of in that glitchcore like subgenre of aesthetic. Playing into that, I wanted to populate this little alleyway, so I added the car in later just to get some breakup in the background. But other than that, all these 3D props were just added as I needed to fill space. So just, all of this came in, added some, graphics in Substance Painter, threw those on, and kind of threw them around and populated the area to give it a more, lived in effect to it. Going into some of the materials for this, I think the easiest one to jump into is our toner, which is just letting me control the vibrancy of so like you see, if I diminish it, it goes, the preview looks different, but this is what I decided on just for this very high vibrance, high contrast, high saturation. It helps the aesthetic a lot. And for that screen effect we're getting, so if we kind of look at it here, we see all these pixels on here. This flashing like effect where the screen's just getting a little brighter every second. This is trying to emulate like a normal screen you're looking at. So all those RGB pixels on it. A little older style, looking at it from the side, you can kind of see a flicker and these different like rainbow colors effect come onto it, which is part of the aesthetic I was going for. And trying to push that with the post process, I think, added to the scene a lot. So, looking at it, it's a pretty simple effect. We're mostly just we were displaying a material over this. So this was just a fake pixel I made. I made an MS Paint. I think it's a 9x9 image of just we have a red line, a green line, and a blue line surrounded by black. We multiply that over the screen. I added a panner just to give it a little bit more screen shake. It's barely noticeable, but just it's something simple that pushes the aesthetic, I think, and I decided to add it. But yeah, I used this. Originally, it was, the colors were full saturation, so 255 red, 255 green, and 255 blue. But that made the scene look really strange. There was a lot of contrast that I just didn't like. You could see every pixel, and it would add these really thick black lines. And it took me a while to figure out what was wrong, but just decreasing the saturation, making all these, I think, like 150 red, 150 green, 150 blue, helped to make it look more realistic, which is one of those things where in real life the pixels are all full saturated, but when you're making stuff like this, you kind of have to test it out and see where that goes. So this is what all this is, very simple. Up here is where we're getting that, like lighting effect where it gets brighter and flickers. This is just a simple sine wave that we are basically making the value of our brightness go up and down in between these two variables. And just kind of multiplying that over the effect to make it look like a screen. So that's pretty simple. I think this was just a unlit material. This is our outline. So all these blue outlines are just done with a simple material here. So this is a material overlay. This just goes on top of the material, and we're basically just creating a like another mesh outside of the thing. So this is all like a fake like mesh that we're creating that just has a color to it, and it takes this and kind of pushes it away from the body, and we're seeing the inside. So just all these blue lines are like the inside of this mesh enlarged and put around it. So it's a very simple effect. There's other ways to do it based on like color and stuff that I've done in other projects, but just for something this simple, this is inexpensive. It works good enough, and that's what I decided to go with for our outline. Then we're gonna get into our master material. This one's a lot more complicated, but it's not super complicated. First off, you can't really tell, but looking at it, the character in this scene does have vertex wobble on them, just to further like give them some character or just push the aesthetic. Like it needed something, and the wobble really got it there. If I get up in the character, you can kind of see it more. If I go slow, that wobble on that vertex, just kind of emulating like PS1 style era where the vertexes on 3D models would wobble as you look at them. So that was just kind of put in. It's very simple. We're just kind of taking our camera and we're taking that vector and putting it over a noise, and basically that noise like controls our world position offset of it so that it looks like it's moving when you're in different areas. You can control how much it wobbles. I'll show that in a second in the instance. And then this is how we're getting our coloring. So all these shadows are done on the material itself. We're able to control the shadow color, shadow length. You see how this one's a little more faded. This one's a lot more harsh. We're able to control all that. We have a material function here, just kind of putting these two vectors together and getting our direction. Yeah, so we were able to put in our shadows, put in an input color, and get our shaded material. And I'm overlaying that with a texture, which is done on some. All of these are all the same material. They just have, some of them have texture, some of them don't. So this was just a parameter, and this wobble is only on the character, so that's a parameter as well. But those are all the same material. I would like to save that. So looking at let's look at the character. I don't know why it's not opening up. Here we go. Oh, that's the monster can. Hold on. Here we go. Sorry about that. So this obviously shows you kind of more in exaggerated how that works. It's just kind of pushing all those vertex with a world position offset. This kind of controls the shading, so we are able to get kind of some interesting looks. But you're able to soften it a lot. And this is just turning on our texture, and that turns off the wobble. And we're able to just, if I wanted this to be pink and red, we kind of get a different effect. So overall, that's kind of the process of this. It was a pretty simple scene to set up. It only took me, I think, a day or two getting all this done. But just some interesting techniques that I thought I would show off in my portfolio. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching the video. Bye.